This is a celebration Twitch stream all about Istio to celebrate the Istio 1.0 release. I'm joined here by some of the gentlemen from AspenMesh. We've got Randy Almond and Neeraj Poddar. Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good, good. You guys want to throw some intros at the chat?
Yeah, sounds good. So my name is Randy Almond, and I lead market development here at AspenMesh, which basically means I talk to customers.
Hi, I'm Neeraj. I'm the platform leader at AspenMesh. I'm part of the engineering team working on making AspenMesh work.
Okay, so tell me, I don't know, what's AspenMesh?
Yeah, so AspenMesh is a supported service mesh. So we're built on top of Istio, so we try to take all the good stuff that the Istio community is building. And then what we're looking to do is build a supported version of that. So our own little distribution of Istio that we help people get going quickly with it. So we try to make it easy to get started so that folks can take advantage of all the goodness in Istio without having to deal with it all themselves.
And does that come in at the network layer, at the the Kubernetes layer, or virtual machines, or?
You want to take that one?
Yes. So right now we are at the Kubernetes layer, but it's on top of Kubernetes, just like Istio is on top of Kubernetes.
Yep.
So we're not restrictive. At some point when the VM support is first class, we'll also support VMs.
Sure, sure. There's been plenty of people on my larger group at IBM that have been exploring mesh expansion in a couple different directions. So
Exactly.
Is there a demo?
Yeah, we've got one in a sec. But first, before we even dive into that, I think to the what is AspenMesh piece, Neeraj has got something you can show that kind of gives an overview of the architectural diagram for kind of how we work, and it gives some good context for the demo.
Sure,
All right.
sure.
I'm gonna start sharing my screen, and let's see. Can you see this?
We'll see. Production?
We're good.
Production thinks it's good.
All right, great. So this is a quick AspenMesh overview which explains how AspenMesh works and how it interacts with Istio. So what you see in the bottom is what is deployed in our users cluster of AspenMesh. So it's a typical Istio installation with the Istio control plane, and then you have your services, and the pods have the sidecar injected.
I love this Doomsday Clock example app. I need this. I need this source code.
See what it does. All right. So yeah. So the AspenMesh agent is another control plane element that we add. So the AspenMesh agent sits in our users clusters. It does three things. It takes the telemetry, tracing data, and the config and sends it up to the AspenMesh platform. So AspenMesh platform is a hosted SaaS cloud platform which currently hosts for our customers Prometheus, Grafana, and Jaeger, which gives them an easy way to get time series data and also some useful charts at the same time looking at the tracing data for the requests flowing to the system. And then the platform has advanced analytics feature, which looks at all the data which is coming in across tracing, stats, and config, and then feeds it into a dashboard, which is what you pointed out. You see the Doomsday Clock.
Yeah. So this. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, keep going. Makes sense.
Yeah, so that's where you will see things which are rolled up and say whether your services are healthy, which services are talking to each other.
So you have your own mixer plugin, or?
So currently we don't need a mixer plugin because AspenMesh agent is totally on top of Istio.
Okay.
It just gathers the stuff as backend from mixer and the tracing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So with that as overview, yeah, you want to spin this over my way? I'm going to do a demo of the product itself. So There we are. Are you seeing this okay?
Yeah, I see a website.
Perfect. Sounds good. That's fun with Zoom. These little screens all get in the way. You can never know what the other is seeing. So cool. So this is the live demo of the dashboard right here. So there's a couple things I want to call attention to. One of them at the very top here, you can see this is where we have our Grafana and Jaeger kind of access to that hosted stuff that Neeraj was pointing to earlier.
Sure.
And that the Grafana pulls from the hosted Prometheus, which is part of that whole kind of integrated set of services. So when we talk about, well, how do we make it easier for folks to use this? We kind of take care of all that. We say, and our target customers tend to be, at this point, larger companies.
Sure.
And they want the benefits that you get from these projects, but they don't necessarily want to have to hire a bunch of people who know all about them. So we say, hey, we can take care of that for you, and get you all the goodness of that without having to spin it all up there. So that's that piece up here. The second piece I wanted to point out is this warnings piece. And so this is a project that Neeraj and the team built called Istio Vet, and it's on the AspenMesh GitHub page. It's open source. And this looks at a series of common mistakes that people make when they install Istio. And we basically go through and look for those and let you know.
What's it called?
It's called Istio Vet.
Okay, so it's like a linter. Can you show the GitHub?
Yes.
Yeah.
So just go to GitHub AspenMesh / Yeah.
Where are we?
No.
There it is.
Just pick the first one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
there it is.
Nice.
So the idea here is derived from how compilers work, and they look at various aspects of your code. And we have individual vectors here which look at specific things. So if you go inside, you will have vectors like they look at whether your applications have the app label in it. Otherwise, you don't get the tracing correctly. If your mesh version is mismatching, if your sidecar is not the same version as pilot, for example, you probably have something wrong going on.
So is this sorry, just a second. Is this pre-execution, or is this like a thing I can vet like a running installation with?
Exactly, you can vet on a running installation. This is after the fact, so it will look at all your configuration and give you warnings if there are any issues.
That's fantastic. This is cool. You should definitely shoot this my way, and for the chat, you should definitely check this out, because this is the kind of thing that you can build in, especially because now that Istio is 1.0, right? It's very much like adoption. What does adoption look like? Incremental adoption, and having something that feels like a little bit of a safety belt for that is going to make the whole process considerably easier.
Absolutely, and that was our thought process. Like when we started adopting Istio, as we run Istio in production too, we were internally using this to figure out if there were misconfigurations, and at some point we decided let's just open source and let everyone have the benefit of it.
Yeah, totally. Cool. All right, sorry to derail there. Let's continue with the demo.
No, that's good. That's the whole point of these things. And it's cool. So it looks like that's all in the chat. So I see the GitHub out there. So that was the warnings piece of things. We then have the service graph here, and so the interesting thing here, and this is something kind of cool that we've done, is these locks. So these green locks are basically where we're looking at what's happening between services and giving you a sense for whether MTLS is enabled and working properly.
Sure.
This is where the guys did some cool work extracting some information from Envoy to make this possible.
Yeah, and we look at both what your intended config is and what's actually happening when the traffic is going between two services. So if you wanted MTLS on by configuration, but if there's traffic where MTLS is off, you'll get a red lock, and you can dig deeper into why that's happening.
Got it. And what is the instance where you're going to see a red lock? I mean, if you've turned on MTLS in your entire cluster and you have Spiffy and Spire doing their thing, what is the instance where you're going to have a red lock show up here inside your east-west traffic, inside your
Yes, that's a great question, Spencer. So with the new MTLS policies, you can disable MTLS on a specific port for a specific service.
Okay.
So even if you have globally turned on, you can have situations where you want it actually off. So in that case, we won't give you the red lock, but the red lock would show up if for some reason somebody's trying to contact a service and not using MTLS when it is supposed to use MTLS.
Interesting. So maybe someone it doesn't have their own Envoy sidecar, so their
Exactly.
TCP traffic isn't being intercepted. Okay. All right, I'll buy it.
Yeah, and part of the idea here is, as a security person coming into this space, what we're finding talking to some of the bigger companies is it's new, and then we're trying to make this feel familiar and help them understand what their system looks like at this point in time, and then they can figure out if that matches their expectations or not.
Fantastic stuff, guys.
Yeah, so then rolling down here, we get a little bit more into this kind of service level stuff. And so what you see here is for all the services that we have up there, we have it's kind of a health status. So, we've got green and yellow. Obviously, there's a red, as you could probably intuit as well. We don't have any right now. But this gives you a sense for which services are healthy and which aren't. And if we roll into, this review service,
Sure.
It kind of looks at both the health and security side of things. And right now we're looking at latency, and we're looking at errors, so client and server side errors, and giving you a sense for what's going on with this service. And
Yep.
The idea here is just to give you that data so you can figure out what you do next and where you go with it. Long term, we think we can do some really interesting things around kind of adding some intelligence here and getting a better sense of what's normal and what's abnormal, because these are hard coded right now, but long term, that's not going to work. For some people, 331 milliseconds may be totally fine.
Yeah.
For others, it may be a disaster. And so there's some interesting ideas we have around that.
Yeah, got it. That makes sense. So in terms of your interaction with upstream Istio community and stuff, how has that been? Being one of the companies right on the edge productizing this, and what does your interaction back with the community look like these days?
Yeah, so that's another great question because especially before 1.0, some of the APIs and the functionalities were changing rapidly, so it was little difficult for us to keep up. I think we look forward to some stability in that end. On the flip side of that is we have been trying to interact more with the community to suggest some changes in APIs and some changes in implementation, which might benefit some of the enterprise customers or might benefit from larger organizations. So just recently, I think 2 weeks back, myself and Brian, who is a colleague of mine, we submitted RFEs trying to enhance some of the configurations so you can have ownership semantics for Istio, virtual service configuration, and host names, so that different organizations can actually own the different pieces of configuration, but it's at the same time work together in a coherent manner.
That makes sense.
So it has been very interesting and it's very receptive. It's great to interact with all the other folks, hear their feedback, and then try to refine it, go back, and then again work on it. So we like it.
Yeah. Do you find that you have everybody in the company contributing, or a couple of people taking the leadership in that? What do you kind of see?
So I think eventually, as part of the engineering org, we would like that everyone participates at some level. But obviously, there will be few people who will be taking the lead in it, and then as we grow in size, more and more will pile on to that.
Yeah, and which part do you is it where do you feel like you put the most leadership in? Is it in the pilot or in the mixer or something like that?
Yeah, so it's mostly in the pilot and networking configuration. So our pedigree is mostly around networking. We are from F5. We all have worked on various networking configurations and networking application delivery controllers. So we understand some of the requirements of the industry there. So we're trying to see if we can fit those semantics in Istio.
Sure, and of course with that F5 background, how do you feel about, Matt was just talking about, essentially, kind of his point was that 5 or 6 years ago, we had a very stagnant software ecosystem. It was HA Proxy and Nginx, and pick the one you want. And I'll just throw a shout out for Light HPD because the one that could have been. Living in F5, and because there was a lot of innovation there, right? The F5 at the edge, or the riverbed at the edge, or whatever, was a very common part of configurations. And now people are turning around and they're saying Envoy is the thing that can do that. So, with all your experience, how do you feel about Envoy? What do you think it is there? Do you find any holes that it has that it needs to plug? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so obviously, no product is perfect, but Envoy has done a good job of giving users the flexibility, at the same point adapting the proxy to the new deployment deployment patterns, where you have containers which are short-lived and dynamically changing configuration. I think from the holes point of view, one obvious thing which I found was the health monitoring, and especially it's much more of a problem with Istio, because currently Istio sends config for every service to everyone. So that means if you turn on active health monitoring, you will have every Envoy trying to health monitor every other pod, which is obviously not scalable.
Sure.
So interestingly, this is just giving you a brief history. Around a year back, we were working on our own version of service mesh at F5. We had our proxy internally, and we were trying to build up a control plane, and we were trying to solve this exact problem, where how can you distribute health monitoring in a way where everything scales, at the same point you have information sharing across proxies. So that's one thing that comes to my mind, and I think it's an interesting problem to solve.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for coming by. What I'm asking people is, for the viewers that are, service mesh curious, Istio 1.0, is it time to install it? What are your kind of thoughts for those people?
So are you asking like what they should look out for?
Yeah, what's your, if someone comes to you and says, I'm service mesh curious, I just saw Istio hit 1.0, is it time to install it? What do I do? What do I watch out for?
I see. So I would say definitely you should try and explore Istio, try and explore it, the test application, understand the different configuration patterns and how it affects your traffic, how it affects the traffic, and also how it affects your application. I think that the most bang of the work is if you have new applications that you're writing, you can move some portion of your application functionality into the service mesh. So that's what, as a developer, is really exciting for me. And I think with Istio 1.0, there's improved scalability and there is improved configuration, which can help you get in that path easier. And I think just with Ist Envoy itself, you get so much of observability around tracing and telemetry that really interesting and encouraging. Like you don't really have to add all that stuff in your application. You can have somebody else do it. So
Great.
I think I'm excited, and I hope people are excited too if they adopt Istio and get all the benefits out of Service Mesh.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you so much, guys. This has been Randy Almond and Neeraj Poddar from AspenMesh. There's some GitHub links, thanks to Amara in the chat. We're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be back with Dan Cirillo from Google, who will be talking about Istio and sort of the start of the project and stuff. So stay with us.
Cool.
Short
Thanks,
break.
guys.
Thanks.
Bye.